Porygon2 has just hit #1 in the world in Gen 9 OU thanks to the player Gubius Caesar and this brilliant Porygon2 Trick Room offense team. This team is remarkable for many reasons that I'll get into, but the Porygon2 usage here is what is really catching the eye of the community, a Pokemon that I have not seen anyone really experiment with in Gen 9 until now, not even on the already niche archetype of Trick Room. Porygon2 is ranked ZUBL in Gen 9, which is a very low tier. So why is it being used here? What are its strengths? How is it supporting this very interesting team? And can we see some evidence of it in action, proving useful in one of the most powerful metagames in Pokemon history, Gen 9 OU? Let's take a look. Porygon2 is a work of art. A skilled artist designed this creature once. Such a thing fills my heart with wonder and imagination and makes me want to learn to draw too. But how? I have no background in visual arts and have no idea where to begin. That's where today's sponsor Artwod comes in. Artwod makes learning to draw easy by breaking down art into simple bite-sized lessons. These easy to follow learning paths feel like a game with fun progress tracking and rewards to keep motivation high. Artwod's Roadmap series is a structured learning path designed for artists of all levels. The introductory roadmaps are great for beginners to learn the fundamentals of drawing, and then there are more focused roadmaps about portraits, environments, anatomy, dragons, and my personal favorite, the Cartoon Monsters roadmap. I'm very fond of cartoon monsters. I found Artwod very comfortable and fun to use, and I feel like I'm getting better at drawing already. Currently, Artwod is running a huge discount on their yearly plan. Use my link in the description below to get a 30% discount on their premium plan. Make sure you check out the link, as the deal will not last long. Thank you to Artwod for sponsoring this video. To understand Porygon2, we must look deep within his soul at the fundamental traits that make him who he is, his stats and typing and abilities. Porygon2 is a normal type Pokemon with a rather modest stat distribution indeed, with a decent 85 HP, 90 defense, 95 special defense, and a pretty good 105 special attack. Porygon2 is one of my personal favorite Pokemon, actually. I think it's a great design, and part of the reason I think so is because of its brilliant ability, Trace. Trace is an ability that, on Switch In, will copy the ability of the adjacent enemy, and this allows for some really creative stuff. In Gen 3, you can use this to counter trap Dugtrio by tracing Arena Trap and trapping them in with you. You can counter Jolteon or Houndoom by tracing their Volt Absorb or Flash Fire and gaining immunity to their main attacking types. You can trace Levitate. In Gen 4, you can trace Intimidate as a way to answer Gyarados and lower their attack on Switch In. Despite the average stats, Trace is giving Porygon2 a lot to do in these older formats and a lot of interesting ways to find niche viability. Porygon2 has also been a great favorite in many doubles formats because of its access to the Eviolite items. Since it is a middle stage Pokemon, it can equip the Eviolite and gain boosted defenses. That is very valuable. Plus it has access to the incredible utility move Trick Room, which is far better in the doubles environment, making Porygon2 a great bulky support that can set Trick Room for your ally. Trick Room is a field condition that inverts the speed stat temporarily for 5 turns, meaning that the slower Pokemon will move first instead of the faster Pokemon. It's great in doubles because it undoes all of the speed control your opponent's trying to do, like Tailwind, Weather Speed Enhancement, Icy Wind, and all that kind of thing, by just making the slower Pokemon move first instead. You also have an ally next to you that can take advantage of the Trick Room on the very next turn and output offense immediately. The defensive boost Porygon2 gets from Eviolite means it's a great Trick Room setter that can tank hits and reliably set Trick Room. It's also convenient because of the item clause. Since it's equipping the Eviolite, it frees up a more useful item slot for other allies. Porygon2's other ability, Download, is also quite nice, granting it an attack boost based on the foe's weaker defensive stat. If they have a lower physical defense stat, you'll gain physical attack. If they have lower special defense, you'll gain special attack. And the fact that Porygon2 has this great combination of Trick Room, decent offensive output thanks to Download, and great bulk thanks to Eviolite makes it a really nice Pokemon in doubles. Now, most people would not think to use Porygon2 as an offensive Trick Room setter in singles, for many reasons. Trick Room is worse in singles because you do not have an ally next to you that can take advantage of the Trick Room. games go longer and it's easier to stall Trick Room turns. Usually, if you're thinking about Porygon2 in singles, you're looking at its ability Trace, and the ability to copy useful effects like Magic Bounce, Levitate, Flash Fire, and things like that. That's usually the reason you use Porygon2. So that's what makes this team really interesting from Gubious Caesar, because they are using Porygon2 in the way that you would use it in doubles, as this offensive Trick Room setter. Despite Trick Room having a dreadful history in singles, being viewed as a mere gimmick or novelty strategy, in Gen 9 OU that is beginning to change, and Trick Room is having a renaissance. Not too long ago I covered another Trick Room team that reached number 1 in the world during the official ladder tournament, built by the player MRH. Trick Room usage has risen, and now here's another Trick Room team hitting number 1 in the world. There are many reasons for why Trick Room is feeling so much better in Gen 9 OU, and probably the biggest reason is that this metagame is really fast-paced, where they lean towards offense. And when you have prominent Pokemon in the metagame like Booster Energy Iron Valiant and Booster Energy Iron Moth, with these great consumable items that increase speed, the value of inverting that speed is very high. And the problem of having less turns in Trick Room is circumvented by the fact that many matchups are going to be aggressive teams abusing the speed stat without much defensive backbone, and therefore those 4 turns of Trick Room can actually be used very effectively. Another factor in the rise of Trick Room is the introduction of excellent, slow, offensive Pokemon. Ursaluna is a new face in the Trick Room archetype that is perfect for it, with its astronomically high 140 attack stat boosted further by its ability Guts, which increases attack while statist. It's an incredibly bulky Pokemon with a low speed of only 50. This is an ideal Trick Room Pokemon. There is also Iron Hands, who is excellent on the Trick Room archetype and very similar. It also has 140 attack, excellent defensive stats, and a low base 50 speed. Now, Hatterene was good last gen, but it's feeling even better in Gen 9 with Magic Bounce as a form of hazard defense, rising in significance in a world where hazard insurance is hard to come by. There's less defog and Goldengo is everywhere. Hatterene being able to block hazards from being set by simply switching in is massive. It can support allies and help offensive teams shield against hazards in a way that's proactive. And Hatterene itself learns Trick Room, is able to set Trick Room, and it has a great special attack stat itself. Plus the incredible utility option of Healing Wish, which is great momentum, perfect for an offensive Trick Room team. So Hatterene is like the glue keeping this archetype together and supporting these fantastic new Trick Room abusers in Ursaluna and Hoopa Unbound. So why use Porygon2 on this team? What is the purpose behind Porygon2 as a Trick Room setter? Other Trick Room teams we've covered use options like Mimikyu for its disguise that reliably sets Trick Room, or Hoopa Unbound, a fantastic offensive Pokemon with solid bulk and access to Trick Room itself. These seem like more alluring options, whereas Porygon2 can't help but look a little underpowered for the Gen 9 environment. So what is the appeal of this particular Pokemon? With the Eviolite and a normal typing, Porygon2 is neutral to most incoming damage and is therefore pretty good at tanking just about any hit and getting that Trick Room up. And thanks to Download, plus its solid special attack stat and good offensive move pool, it can also pose a surprising threat. Porygon2 uniquely benefits from the Terra mechanic as well. You see, Terra Blast, in its base state, is a normal type special attack with 80 power. Porygon2 can actually use this in its base state, and it's pretty good, because it's stab boosted with 80 power, and if it gets a download special attack boost with Trick Room active, this deals solid damage. But then it can also terrestrialize to change the type of Terra Blast, and to gain the incredible Ground Ice coverage combo. Terra Blast Ground is great in the metagame, obviously, to nab surprise KOs against incredibly common Pokemon. King Gambit, Goldengo, Raging Bolt, etc. And Ground and Ice are extremely complementary. Ice hits the flying and grass types that Ground cannot hit. Terrestrializing with Porygon2 is pretty damn worthwhile, giving surprise value, since they're probably not going to expect it. It doesn't seem likely that you would waste your Terra on Porygon, but then it's actually a pretty good time to use Terra. getting a surprise KO and then having this great coverage combo that threatens most of what could possibly come in. So Porygon2 actually does stand out pretty well from other Trick Room options here. Hoopa Unbound is more vulnerable in its Psychic Dark typing. It's not quite as reliable at getting Trick Room up in the first place. And Mimikyu is very reliable getting Trick Room up, but not as offensively powerful after getting the Trick Room up. Porygon2 carves itself a little niche here by having the good neutral typing and a nice offense-defense balance. And the final moveset option here is really interesting. It's Hyper Beam of all things, in Gen 9. This is not Gen 1. This is not a world where when you get a KO with Hyper Beam, you end the recharge turn. Hyper Beam is usually a terrible move, especially in competitive singles, where after using it, you have to spend the whole next turn recharging, leaving you wide open to so many different things. The opponent setting up, or the opponent just KOing your guy sitting there helplessly, setting up a substitute, setting up light screen or reflect. There's so many ways to punish the Hyper Beam charge turn. But it's a pretty cool surprise nuke in this format. I mean, the sheer base power of this move, plus the download boost, can earn you KOs on things that aren't expecting to die quite then, like Ogerpon Wellspring, Kyurem, Zamazenta. And Gubius Caesar here, the builder of the team, also made a pretty smart point that after certain Pokemon terrestrialize, they leave themselves wide open to a big neutral Hyper Beam. King Gambit is a great example. King Gambit will almost always terrestrialize to a type that is neutral to normal. Unless it's like a Terra Steel King Gambit for extra Iron Head damage. I don't think I've ever seen that. They're gonna Terra Dark, Terra Flying, Terra Fairy, maybe Terra Fire. And once they do that, the Hyper Beam will get him. Same goes for Goldengo, who in its base state is immune to Hyper Beam, but once it terrestrializes is wide open to the massive Hyper Beam nuke. This is a very cool little out in some matchups. It's probably not something you're going to want to use all the time because it does leave you wide open with the charge turn, but in some situations people are going to play towards the Ogerpon Wellspring or Zamazenta win condition. They're going to think in terms of setting up for that Pokemon. So to have them do that and then have the Zamazenta in a position where it thinks it's totally safe and then surprise KO the guy is huge. It can bail you out of a lost game via that unexpected KO. Now, I've already mentioned the Ursaluna and Iron Hands, which are kind of staples of the Trick Room archetype at this point. The team is also using Cresselia as another Trick Room setter, meaning there's 3 Trick Room setters on the team. Cresselia with the Mental Herb is great against Taunt leads, as the Mental Herb will cure Taunt once. Cresselia has great defensive stats, making it another reliable Trick Room setter, and with Luna Dance, you can also pivot out and also save the life of a low health Trick Room threat in endgame scenarios, potentially winning you the game. Hatterene is running a Focus Sash, which is a nice choice to guarantee a setting of Trick Room, ensuring that it will live any incoming hit. This can make it a nice lead, or even in a mid-game situation, just give you an additional Trick Room to bring your momentum back from the brink. The fact that you have these nice reliable Trick Room setters that can take incoming hits and stomach Taunt also helps in the event when you have to recharge Hyper Beam, because you give up momentum in that instance. So having the Hatterene that can tank a hit and Trick Room again, recovering momentum is very important. And the final member of the team here is Volcanion, which is another Pokemon that makes perfect sense on a Trick Room team. It's got 70 base speed, not the slowest thing in the world, but fairly slow as far as offensive Pokemon go. Water Absorb is very much appreciated, giving your team a defensive entry point against enemies like Ogerpon Wellspring clicking Ivy Cudgel or Walking Wake clicking Steam Eruption. That big neutral water damage could overwhelm the team otherwise. Elsewhere in the team there's no water resistance, and Ursaluna is even weak to water, so that defensive ability really comes in handy. Plus it's also just a fantastic special wall breaker. It's Terra Water with Steam Eruption, and that can often just be spammed in Trick Room to victory. A lot of defensive water types even find themselves getting 2-hit KO'd by Steam Eruption after Terra Water, because they tend to be physically defensive, like Dondozo and Toxapex and Alamamola. Pokemon like that are still taking heaps from the Steam Eruption spam, not to mention you're spreading burn in doing so. It's just a really, really great special wall breaker that can tear teams apart and feels pretty fantastic as well in Gen 9 stall matchups. Volcanion is a fantastic stall breaker. It feels like so many interesting teams are peaking the ladder in Gen 9. Maybe this is a more creative format that people are giving it credit for. I feel like every week you're seeing some crazy stuff top the ladder. The general rise of Trick Room is such an interesting trend. And boy am I glad to see my old friend Porygon2 rising in the ranks once again. One of my personal favorite Pokemon of all time. A beautiful digital duck doing the impossible. How can you not love this? The builder of the team, Gubius Caesar, actually has a YouTube channel called simply Hyper Offense, which is certainly an apt description of this particular team. And they've got some ladder videos using this team, which I thought were quite good, and give you a nice idea of the thought process and decision making behind the team, the kind of confident plays you have to make, and the way that you map out your offensive pressure. If you're interested in trying the team or even building Trick Room yourself, I would recommend checking out that channel and the linked Smogon Thread where the team is described in detail and replays are provided. Speaking of replays, why don't we take a look at this team in action and see how a team like this contends with the best players and the best teams in the world on the Gen 9 ladder. In this battle, Gubius Caesar here was up against one of the top 3 players in the world at the time, with the little gold badge signifying so underneath their avatar. And honestly, the opponent here is running a pretty novel team themselves, a Comfy Whimsicott Sun team. Quite a thing. Let's take a look at how this one plays out. Gubius leads off with the Porygon2, which can get a clean Trick Room off right off the bat here. Easily stomaching this fiery dance from Iron Moth and establishing momentum already. Committing to the Terra Blast ground for the surprise KO is a smart choice early on. You've spent Terra, but you've gotten rid of a huge threat. In comes Volcanion, getting value out of that Water Absorb already on the Walking Wake pivot. We're clicking Sludge Bomb to possibly mid-ground those fairy types coming in and hit them harder. Especially Whimsicott, who would have resisted Steam Eruption. Now Cresselia is in, and we're going to get Trick Room back. It feels like you can always keep Trick Room up, especially against an offensive matchup like a Sun team. In comes Hatterene, switch again, spending its sash, but threatening Great Tusk all the same. Walking Wake will perish to another Psychic Noise here. One turn of Trick Room left in this particular scenario. Comfy is here, and is going to get a big growth under the sun. This could be a problem. Comfy gets Draining Kiss and Stored Power. It's quite a formidable foe indeed. It's going to Terra Water and Growth. Gubius Caesar with the astute Sludge Bomb to do good neutral damage, but Comfy will deal with it with a big Stored Power. Draining Kiss comes down, healing it all the way back up to full. Cresselia gets the Trick Room and falls to another Draining Kiss. Goodness me. Ursaluna has to spend a Trick Room turn of their own to get the Guts Flame Orb activated, but actually still forces out Comfy. They don't want to die. The Facade threatened to one-hit, and Draining Kiss wouldn't quite one-hit Ursaluna. Now you're chipping Ursaluna down a bit with that Great Tusk Rocky Helmet, but at what cost? Ninetales sets Sun again, and Healing Wishes out. Back to the Whimsicott. The Healing Wish is still stored and can heal something in the future, but I think that the Comfy is mostly full anyway. It was mostly for the pivot, that Healing Wish. Giga Drain comes down, and Moon Blast will end the life of that Iron Hands. Swiftly, it's looking tough for Gubius. Trick Room, the Eviolite bulk allowing it to just live. We Ice Beam. You don't set Trick Room actually there, because Draining Kiss has priority anyway. And here's the moment of truth. The growth from Comfy. Think of that they're safe, and the Hyper Beam gets the clutch big KO at the end. What a well-piloted endgame there, to be honest. I auto-piloted myself there. I was like, you gotta set Trick Room. But no. Comfy would have been able to follow up with a priority triage boosted Draining Kiss and do that last 12%. The play was to Ice Beam Whimsicott directly, and then Hyper Beam there to deny growth from happening. Growth is the only real way that opponent could have defeated Ursaluna, who now is chipped into range of Draining Kiss. If they get a growth off, they KO with with the Draining Kiss, but the Hyper Beam just cleanly one-shots Comfy there as they click Growth and secures the victory. What a beautiful battle that was. And a great example of how Trick Room is kind of a good offense, anti-offense team. It's an offense team itself, but it really punishes a Sun team, doesn't it? They're building towards speed, they are. And by Trick Rooming, you are inverting the speed and resetting the momentum in your favor. We're looking at more battles, folks. This team is epic. We need more of this in our lives. And this time, Gubius is up against a much more meta team here than the last battle, but I think this speaks to why Trick Room is a good meta call right now. You look at the enemy's team, they've got the Booster Energy Iron Moth, fast Pokemon like Zamazenta, Cinderace, and Iron Valiant, Booster Energy Iron Valiant as well, and even the Dragon Dance Dragonite. Trick Room inverts momentum against all of these, and kind of makes their game plan flounder, doesn't it? This is part of the reason Gen 9 is a unique environment where Trick Room is working in singles. Because an enemy team like this is currently the meta. Let's see how this one plays out, folks. We lead again with Porygon2 against the Dragonite, and it's a free Trick Room again. You see how good Porygon2 is at just getting the initial Trick Room? Absolutely. Will they do the Terra Blast ground? Yes, indeed, to KO the Iron Moth. The surprise KO is huge. You do spend Terra early, but getting that KO is big. Forced out by Zamazenta there, because the download boost was attack, not special attack. But Volcanion will stomach Body Press and do far more with Steam Eruption, which is very difficult to switch in against. Dragonite is the best switch in, and it risks Burn. Dodges Burn that time, fortunately, but it was not a fantastic position to be in. Decides to preserve the low health Volcanion there and just switch to Cresselia, who shrugs off Dragonite very well. Cresselia, kind of a good Dragonite check as well, something I didn't mention, with Levitate, good physical bulk, and Moonblast. In comes Ursaluna on the U-turn and activates Flame Orb conveniently at the same time. Facade comes down. Great Tusk does live it, but not carrying a fighting type attack. A lot of Great Tusks are carrying ground ice coverage, rapid spin, and some other thing. Dropping fighting coverage, and this has proved bad. Wow, Iron Valiant with Vacuum Wave is kind of crazy. That's kind of the perfect thing to have there, isn't it? Cresselia gets the Trick Room in the face of the Iron Valiant, who appears to be a Calm Mind special attacking Iron Valiant. And the Cresselia itself is the one to take on this threat, hitting him with Psychic, Living Vacuum Wave, getting the huge Luna Dance out to Iron Hands. And I believe a Luna Dance heal is still stored in the back pocket for later on a switch in. Ice Punch will do the last 22% to that Zamazenta, but they've stored the Trick Room. Now, Pyro Ball comes down, and wow, Iron Hands lives that easily. They go for the Ice Punch on a predicted switch to Dragonite, which didn't happen. In comes Volk to fully heal all the way back. The stored Luna Dance coming in clutch. Gunk Shot gets a poison. I wonder how relevant that will be. Steam Eruption drops Cinderace, and now it's just Dragonite against the world. In comes the simple Porygon2. And Dragonite Terra's Fairy to get another Dragonite, expecting an incoming Ice Beam. Terra Blast will break Multi-Scale. And are we going to see Hyper Beam? Because that's most damage. Not quite yet. We're Terra Blasting up. Dragonite could actually win this, but no, Hyper Beam comes down and gets the huge final KO. I don't believe that Dragonite actually had... No, they did have extreme speed, but it still probably didn't kill P2 there. Look at that, folks. Another example of Hyper Beam coming in absolute clutch for big neutral damage against something that terrestrialized. A lot of Pokemon, they terrestrialize defensively in Gen 9 to dodge super effective damage, but they usually terrestrialize to a type that is still getting hit by a big Hyper Beam. So it's actually kind of a nice way to punish the defensive terrors and the people thinking they're completely safe to spam boosts. We've seen this win 2 battles in a row here. How intelligent, how intellectual, and how technologically advanced a team like this is in the current day. When Porygon2 came out back in Gen 2, it was considered exciting new technology. A digitized duck was revolutionary. These days, people laugh at such a concept. Antiquated technology, paling in comparison to Iron Jugulus and Iron Mugulus and these more advanced robotic Pokemon of modern times, and yet now look at where they are. Now look who gets the last laugh. It's Porygon2, back on top. A piece of technology that has aged perfectly, that will never truly become obsolete and outcompeted by the soulless robo-technology of today. Iron Moth is considered Volcarona 2 in a spiritual sense, and yet Porygon2 is consistently winning the 1v1. What does that tell you about the spiritual character of a fella like Iron Moth? It tells you that Iron Moth is a soulless husk, not a robot but a bug at heart, while a duck is a far more altruistic being than a bug. And ducks, I think, are good for the ecosystem, probably. I'm not sure on that. It seems correct. I just look at them in the eyes and I feel as if they're good for the ecosystem. Porygon2 is a duck at heart, not a digital creature, not a robot, but a wonderful being with a soul, and that's what you need, is a soul. For some reason in my prior video about Chestnut reaching #1 in the world, a lot of people thought I was lying, even though there was evidence in the description that Chestnut reached #1. I suppose I can't blame you for thinking so, though, because it's an absurd turn of events, and perhaps some of you think that I'm lying here for some just an initial instinct that there's no way a little duck could achieve such greatness. There's no chance. It doesn't pass the smell test or the vibe check for many people, and they ignore the evidence because of their own gut feeling that a little duck could not do this. A duck could not reach the peak of the mountain, but I'm telling you that the duck is the only one that could reach the peak of the mountain, much like Frodo from The Lord of the Rings. He is the only one who is pure of heart enough to do what it takes to achieve these great heights. I think that we need to really understand that, and we are losing sight of what matters as a culture. Future societies will write songs and stories about Porygon2 and all that he did, while you will be forgotten, you who claim that I'm lying and that Porygon2 has little merit. You will be forgotten by the history books. You mark my words. Thank you for watching, folks. What do you think of Porygon2? What did you think of this team? Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel Hyper Offense and the Smogon Thread and all the replays. Share your unique individual perspectives in the comments, and thank you again for watching.